Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I want to briefly go over with you guys over why almost everyone should be focused on gaining more muscle mass, irrespective of what your goals are in life, let alone in fitness. And what I want to cover here briefly is for people to understand the performance benefits, aesthetic benefits, and health benefits of trying to maximize the amount of muscle that you have on your frame. Now, for strength purposes, this one's very, very obvious. We have study after study after study looking at strength athletes showing that lean body mass relative to limb lengths and heights is the number one determiner of what your max strength is, right? Biggest factor in which you can one rep max. There are other factors, but it is by far the largest, and it actually beats all the others combined together in terms of importance. All right, very straightforward. All right, athletic performance, kind of the same thing. We talk about force production out on a field, speed, strength, all these things. And these are things that we can train neurologically. These are things that we can train with different intramuscular coordination. But muscle mass is what determines our potential for force production. And people say, well, an athlete could get too big or bulky. That is very unlikely for most sports. Again, for the majority of sports, you are not going to be able to get so bulky from strength training that it will impede your performance. If anything, it will enhance it. That includes marathon runners, Tour de France, everything else. All those people do serious strength training at the elite level. Okay, the only exception would be if you use large amounts of anabolics, because that's why people take anabolics, is to gain muscle mass. Well, if you're not utilizing these substances at relatively high doses, it's just unlikely to occur. And in fact, usually for sports that cap weight limits, even the people who cheat, they very much limit the doses they use so that they don't get too big, but they are still trying to gain more muscle than they had without them, because that is why they're used. That is the primary benefit, is the accruing of lean body mass and or holding on to muscle tissue as you lose weight and get leaner. So again, that kind of falls in line with what they're doing with body weight. All right, these are straightforward. Now, when it comes to physique, because we'll get to health next, most people say, well, I want a certain look, but what they're forgetting is that the physique that they think that they want probably requires more muscle mass than they think it does. If you're not very knowledgeable about these areas, you might be looking at a given person and thinking, oh, well, I only need to gain 5 pounds of muscle to have that physique if I just get leaner and more ripped. And the reality is that person that you're looking at might have 20 pounds, 25 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds of muscle over what you currently have, even at the same height. Okay, so you need that context. So that physique you're looking at probably has a lot more muscle. On top of it, when you have more muscle tissue, your metabolic rate is higher, your energy turnover is higher. It's easier to get leaner because you can eat more food. You can eat more food, more calories, and lose the body fat easier. Okay, so there's again a kind of a big benefit there. Not only will it help you get the look you want, it will help you to lose the body fat to get that look. And again, this oftentimes even applies to people who are like, well, I want kind of this swimmer's type physique or a certain physique they're looking at. But it's kind of like, do you really think that you look like that right now? Underneath the fat that you have, do you really think that that's how you look? Okay, and for most people, they really don't. They don't. So again, if people are deceiving themselves about how much muscle they need to gain, they really, to reach that goal, they might still need to spend the next 3 years focusing heavy on gaining muscle. And that includes a lot of women. They'll see this bikini girl or something and they say, hey, I kind of want to look like her. And it's like, well, you're going to have to focus on gaining muscle for the next 5 years to have that look. Okay, so just context there. Now, overall health. Cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all of that. All right, we know at this point, studies are showing that we gain far more heart health from strength training than we do from cardio. Now, it doesn't mean cardios are useless. When they're combined together, there's a synergistic effect. But reducing heart disease, strength training does that. Now, when you make that statement, people say, so you're saying if I become a big fat power lifter? No, no one said to get big and fat. But the strength training and the muscle mass will help. All right, it will help tremendously. Cancer, diabetes, the statistics show that strength training alone, again, largely due to increasing muscle mass, which improves insulin sensitivity, all right, which then in turn reduces tumor growth. We know that lifting weights and focusing on gaining muscle cuts cancer rates by 50% if no other lifestyle factors change. Cuts it in half. Okay, and that's if you're doing the bare minimum. Diabetes, it cuts it by 70%. Just the strength training. And again, I want people to understand this is before we incorporate other things like a better diet and sleep and lifestyle and other stuff. This is just the lifting end. You start adding that other stuff and it improves a lot more. So we have those things to think about. Then we have to think about longevity and aging. Gaining muscle mass will improve bone density. Start looking at what really gets you later in life. It's going to be things like hip fractures, bone fractures, right? Osteoporosis. Well, our strength training and gaining muscle offsets that, offsets it tremendously. It's the difference between having broken limbs and having to walk with a walker versus walking around and being strong. And in some cases, I've met 70-year-olds who power lift who are stronger than the average 20-year-old male who walks around who's not a lifter. They're stronger in their 70s. Okay, this makes a big deal as you get older. The same thing, we know that sarcopenia is really the biggest factor in us degrading. Sarcopenia is the loss of muscle mass. So the more that you have and the more that you can keep, the more you can stave off the ravages of aging. Okay, this is a very big deal. Your quality of life later in life could depend on this. You know, your ability to be fit and active and healthy and not have to have a walker or a cane could depend on this. It could add decades to your quality of life, not just your lifespan, but your quality of life. Reduce diabetes, cancers, heart disease, everything. So when you look at all of these factors, you look at the fact of what it does for longevity and health and quality of life. We look at what this does for the ability to lose body fat, what it does for the ability to reach the physique that many people want to have, what it does for your athletic performance in sports, what it does for your maximum strength if you're a strength athlete, all right? Focusing on muscle mass is one of the most important things you can possibly do. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.